This is Beer in Front, part of the Odd Pods Media Network. Sometimes the beer in front of you is the best one yet. I'll talk about some great beer, and I'll also talk to various people in and around the beer industry to get their stories all about beer. That's Beer in Front, and it's coming up now. Welcome to episode 202 of Beer in Front. I'm your host, Dave Zalatoris, and Beer in Front is a proud Odd Pods Media Network member. Have a good show today. I chatted with Audrey Gelhausen, the co-owner of Billy Goat Hop Farm. They're based out of Colorado, and it was cool to hear her story about hops and the hop industry. I always say sometimes the beer in front of you is the best one yet. I had to have some hoppy beers after talking to her, so I revisited the superb Two-Hearted IPA from Bell's, and also one that's a collaboration between two great Illinois breweries. All this and much more on Beer in Front. The Craft Beer Marketing Awards will be held next month, featuring the best in visual presentation. I'm once again honored to be a judge for this year, and let me tell you, that was difficult. There are so many great designs out there. Check out the Crushies for the winners next month in April. I have a couple of good shows lined up for the next few weeks. I chatted with Arturo Vargas from El Jimador, who is releasing a new line of flavored malt beverages called El Jimador Spiked Bebidas. I also chatted with Brandon, who works for Good People in Avondale Brewing, and Ashley, who's been on before. You might know her as Brewed Black Girl. She's from Birmingham. I have a cousin from Birmingham as well, so I want to get him on and do a whole episode on the beer scene in Birmingham, Alabama. I'm still drinking Illinois beer. I stopped at Burning Bush Brewery, stone's throw for me, and I really enjoyed their Sweet Demon Ale. This was a red ale, and it had maple bacon. How do you go wrong with maple bacon? There's a lot of beer and beverage news this week. There's going to be a new tequila on your shelves soon. Hermanas Amigas is a brand owned by African-American women. I'm excited to see this and try it when it comes out later this year. On the 13th of April, Flourish Art Accelerator is having an event at the 21C Hotel Museum, and there's going to be some samples to try so you could taste the tequila before the general public has it when it's released. I'll put the links in the show notes to the tequila company and the festival. Chicago's newest craft brewery, Demo Brewing Company, they're opening this Friday, March 29th in the Malt Row part of Chicago, so check that out. I read this interesting article over on probrewer.com about the demise of the beer bottle. 10 years ago, craft beer that was in bottles was 86% of all the packaged beer products. Today, bottles only have 31%, and that number keeps declining. Draft beer volume for St. Patrick's Day weekend was down 20% compared to last year. They're saying the NCAA tournament that started later this year on Thursday the 21st was one reason for the decline. Remember last week I mentioned that Voodoo Ranger is releasing a beer in collaboration with Tombstone Pizza? I just saw the price of this. $49.99 for a 4-pack. Have you lost your mind? This better be the best beer I've ever had if I'm going to drop $50 on 4 beers that taste like pepperoni pizza. I just looked at the Jewel app. Jewel's got Tombstone this week for $5.49. I'll grab that with some beer instead. $50. Mars Brewing out of Chicago released a sparkling water with 25 milligrams of THC, and this is called Bong Water. Walmart's going to expand the availability of Black is Beautiful to 21 states. This started in 2020 from Weathered Souls. When it came out, it was a fantastic stout, and I had as many variants as I could get my hands on, and they were all fantastic. The press photo that I saw, they're also going to have a red ale, an IPA, and a French toast stout. So check those out at Walmart. Heineken is going to increase the price of their beer, blaming rising costs and inflation. Profits rose 80%, but all right, it's inflation. Yeah, okay, I'll buy that. Miller Lite is bringing back the Taste Great, Less Filling campaign. This time they're going to have J.J. Watt, Reggie Miller, and Big Poppy, amongst others. And finally, Great Lakes will release 3 double IPAs as part of their double feature series. Lake Erie Monster should be out as you're listening to this, Spacewalker Hazy Double IPA in June, and my favorite, Nosferatu, in August. It's funny, we were just talking about Nosferatu when I was on Rod J's show a couple weeks ago, and you need to check him out every Thursday night, Rod J's Beer Ventures. But we were just talking about Nosferatu, and now I saw the press release. So, Rod, you got to pick it up in August. Billy Goat is a family-owned hop farm and is located in the great state of Colorado. They are the largest hop farm in the Southwest with 32 acres. I purchased some Magnum and Cascade to make hop water and beer soon, and I'm impressed. Great quality hops, good prices, and you're not buying from a corporation. That makes Billy Goat my not-so-local place for hops. Joining me now is Audrey Gelhausen from Billy Goat. Audrey, thanks so much for taking time out today.
Yeah, you're sure welcome. I'm excited to be here. And yeah, thanks for getting some hops and making some hop water. I can't wait to hear all about it.
Looking at like your bio, you're originally from Southern Indiana?
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
We're practically kin because I have family in Evansville.
Oh, no way. Do you really?
Yes. Yeah.
That's
all
awesome.
of my father's sides, like in Evansville.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's where both my families, my mom and dad's side, are from there.
Okay.
And, I grew up 30 minutes outside in Oakland City, but
all right.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm really excited to talk to you. How did you get started? How did Billy Goat Hop Farm get started?
Chris, my partner, and I were living up in Idaho, and we both worked seasonal jobs, from skiing in the skiing industry to river guiding. He did some more landscaping type golf course maintenance jobs and just lived the life. Did a lot of traveling and playing, and it was awesome. So we did that for about a decade. And then at some point we decided it was time to settle down a little bit, have some roots. At the time, that was not a pun, but it has since become one. We looked at all different kinds of things to do, from landscaping to opening a brewery. We loved craft beer, and we loved just the scene of them, the community. They're usually outdoorsy type folks, good people, and we had both worked in different capacities within breweries. At the time, Chris was working at Grand Teton Brewery.
Okay.
And and there was a shortage in hops, and so he kind of saw the prices going up and the need for them. And that's what first really triggered the idea. And with his background in dealing with plants, he had never actually farmed specifically before, but he had a lot of experience with plants, and he had a degree in biology and such. So it seemed like a good fit, and you get to still be outside, be in that brewery community. And so we started doing more research, getting books, looking up online. And yeah, it was very intriguing. It's an absolutely amazing plant. If you've never seen a hop farm, I cannot recommend it enough. It's so cool. And then Chris ended up getting a full job at Jackson Hop Farm, which is in southern Idaho, big 800-acre farm, and did a season there to learn as much as he could about them, also to see if we liked it, if it was something we actually wanted to do, if it was feasible, etc. And so at the end of that season, it was, get off the pot or go. And so we decided to to dive in, we did another road trip back in our van around 5 different states, different areas, real estates, brewers, other hop farmers, deciding where to start it, how big. And we ended up in Montrose. And just haven't slowed down since.
Yeah. You live your life smelling hops. How cool is that?
It's pretty darn cool.
Yeah.
It really is. It's funny because sometimes you almost forget that your clothes, your house, the everything smells like hops, and it almost becomes, you almost don't even notice it. And somebody will stop by the farm and just almost be knocked down, like, oh my gosh. And you're like, oh yeah, it smells really strong right now.
Yeah. Do you, like, you hear stories about people who work in like a potato chip factory can never eat potato chips because they smell it all the time. Do you have that with beer? Like, I mean, you're known for your Cascade. Is it like, no, I need something else. I need another hop in my beer.
Certainly not.
All right, cool.
But I just want more of it. It's nice. I think Chinook is probably my favorite. When we're harvesting that, the warehouse, just the aroma of the Chinook it's amazing.
Yeah. Now, the farm, like looking at your website, the farm that you're on initially was used to grow barley. Is there any part of the farm that you still devote to barley at all?
There's not. It is. Right. It's pretty cool. There's a lot of farms in the valley that at one point historically grew barley for Coors, but that sort of ended. And so we've definitely talked about it a bunch, and we have an area that we could, and we've looked into it. It's just a whole nother level of equipment that we would either have to, buy or find somebody to lease and do it. And it just hasn't made sense yet, but we do talk about it, and it would be super cool. So one day, maybe. Yeah,
you could do everything at one farm. You'll have your barley, hops, get some wild yeast in the air, and you're good to go.
That's right. And the dream is to definitely have a brewery on the Faint. We have a great location, amazing view of the San Juan Mountains, right on the road to Telluride and Durango. And I think it'd be really cool, just one step at a time. So it would be neat to have everything all there.
Oh, yeah, that'd be fantastic. Now, Billy Goat, you've won the Cascade Cup for the best Cascade hop 2 years running. Most people, like, I know, like, when I would always think of hops, you would think of the Pacific Northwest, like Washington State, Oregon. What makes Colorado such a great area and land for growing hops?
It's interesting. It's hard to answer that in a scientific, like, factual way, because there is very little to none research done on hops here. It's all, like you said, in the Pacific Northwest. So factually, I don't know, but I do think it's really interesting. We're at just over 6,000 feet, and so we're that closer to the sun rays coming down. We do have shorter day length, which in general hops like that long periods of sun. And so that's not great. But in the middle of the day, our full saturation of sunlight is a longer period. So they're getting full sun for longer, despite that the overall period is shorter. I think that has a factor in it. We also have slightly more acidic soils. Again, what role does that or doesn't that play? Yeah. It's hard to know without doing a lot of research. And honestly, I can't help but think that when you're at a smaller scale, you do have the ability to really be hands-on all the way. We're out every day walking the field, knowing what's going on. We're able to address any pest or disease issues right away. We're not just fully pumping them full of chemicals, positives and negatives. And so And then from there, when we go to harvest, we're hand feeding them in a much more intimate way than the big places. We're seeing the cones come out. We're checking what, how much waste there is, how much leaf matter is getting in the dryer. I mean, every single batch, either Chris or myself is checking the dryer before it's empty. And so there is another level of care that's able to be given at our size, which I can't help but imagine is beneficial.
Yeah. What for you is like the typical growing season like? Like, have you planted anything yet, or is it still too early?
Yeah, they have not started coming out of the ground. They're perennials, and so we're having a warm spring. So I'm guessing here by early April they'll start coming out, and we'll start pulling the drip tube back out. Getting the irrigation all lined back on. We'll any of the dead matter before we pull the drip tube out. So cover crop from last year or the hops from last year that are now brown and dead, we burn those back with fire, get the irrigation out. And then 1st of May, that's when we start stringing and training. So as you may know, hops grow up a trellis. And so there's tires that are 18 feet up in the air through this trellis system. We built our trellis ourselves, designed it. We, of course, looked at how the big ones were built, so made our own plan. And we put in 2,300 poles in the ground and hung 57 miles of cable up to build the trellis. And then, it was that was all kind of the first year of the farm. If I never have to hold another 16-pound pry bar to dig rocks out of holes, I will be happy. I'll tell you what. But so anyways, then now you have this trellis structure, but every spring you have to tie the ropes or the string that the hops are going to grow up to those wires. So we have kind of a man basket that holds the strings and 4 people, and we'll drive through the field and we'll hand tie close to 60,000 strings. And then a crew will fall behind and clip those strings into the plant. Okay. Once that's all done, then we'll hand wrap 3 or 4 binds of the plant around each string, kind of picking out the best binds and trimming away any bad ones if that's needed. And so then that's sort of the training process, making sure the plants that we want are going. And that'll take us into early June. And then the rest of June and July, the plants they're growing up. They can grow a foot a day. It's really, it's quite impressive. And we're, of course, working on any needed chemicals, any weed mitigation, pest and disease mitigation, cleaning up the drip tubes, things like that. We also pretty much by then are starting to prepare for harvest because it's such a large process. That usually begins mid-August.
All right.
And so, so during that process, the first step is we'll go out and just hand machete the bottom of every plant. So now they're hanging from the wire. They remind me of like ghosts in the wind, kind of just like these big 18-foot long plants, just like, and as they hang there. And then we go through with a tractor and a harvest wagon, and it's sort of just a narrow trailer with sides. And in the back, there is another man basket. So you're up in the air and a person's up there and they're macheting the top of the plant. So now you're getting that whole 18-foot section of plant into the trailer. You feed the plant in there. The bind and the rope come out, the waste on one side, the cones come out a conveyor on the other side. From there, they'll drop to another conveyor that takes them up to our dryer. And the dryer has 4 different levels. It's like a louvered floor, and then it has forced hot air coming up through the whole system. And so as the hops drop from floor to floor, they dry. And then by time they're in the bottom floor is a big drawer that you can pull out. And once they're done, you drop them into a hopper, and a conveyor takes them into the warehouse where they'll condition for 24 hours, making sure the moisture content's where we want, the temperature's where we want, and then we'll bale them. So then all the hops get, squished into a 2x2 by 4 foot bale and put into cold storage. Once the whole field is down in cold storage, then you can finally breathe because nothing can rot anymore. It's all down and safe. And then we switch all of our equipment over, clean out the warehouse and set up for pelletizing, get all that hooked up. And then we'll take the bales out, open them all up, feed them through a hammer mill, a pellet die, cooling drum, and then, pelletize all of them, end up packaging everything into 11-pound bags, put those back into the cold storage, and then they're ready to go into beer.
Yeah. And then you take a break until the next spring.
That's right.
Yeah.
Then you try and sell them.
Yeah.
Then the hard part comes. We thought farming was going to be the hard part, but
Hello, friends. This is an AI version of John. Lauren has the power to make me say anything she wants me to say. She decided that I needed to tell you to listen to the Beard Al podcast. It's the podcast where we talk about two of the best things in the world, beer and the wonderful Weird Al. She also wants me to tell you that she rules and I drool. Lauren is awesome. I smell like feet. Go listen to the Beard Al podcast, available wherever you get podcasts. Lauren is the best at running the show. I'm just side talent. Lauren is so great.
Well, you have breweries from all over, like Treehouse in Massachusetts. You have a lot of local Colorado breweries. How does that process work with getting a brewery to use your product?
Yeah, there's a handful of different things that we've done. The first 4 years, every winter, we went on a big month-and-a-half long road trip back in the van. And we've been to most every brewery in Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas. We also did a John out to Asheville, North Carolina. And so we picked up some folks through that venture. People tried, they liked, and a good handful have kept. It's a little difficult we've learned a lot of reasons why, I guess I'd say.
Okay.
It's hard to buy from us and how to navigate around that. One is the brewer has to care. They have to want to buy from an independent family farm. Whether a lot of the places in Phoenix and Texas, even over in Asheville, North Carolina, we're closer to them than the Pacific Northwest is, so it's still less of a carbon footprint for shipping. And so they need to care about that. For one thing, do have 9 different varieties that we grow, and we also gain a handful of other varieties from some other farms and pelletize and process those to be able to offer more. But at the end of the day, a brewer is going to need more than 9 varieties, so they're still going to have to purchase from somewhere else. So now you're purchasing from 2 different places. With this Cascade Cup, we've proven that we grow great hops and we have a high quality product, and we do work hard to keep our prices competitive. And so it's just, do you find people that want to support that or not? And not only do they, but do the consumers care? Do the end consumer actually know what a hop looks like, what malt looks like, what the grain bill means in a beer, and whether they understand all that or not? Do they care if it's coming from a giant corporate farm that's spraying every 7 days, or whether it's coming from a family farm? So there's that aspect that plays a role. But sorry, I'm digressing a little bit.
All right.
But we so door-to-door salesman is one main tactic that we've used to let people know we exist. As I get emails, I put out a newsletter, try and call folks to stay in touch. And then also we've gotten the publicity through the Cascade Cup, which is awesome. We were very fortunate to be in the New Brewer magazine this last fall, and I think that's where Treehouse first heard of us, if I'm not wrong. But it's that did the word out, and we certainly now out of Cascade that sells, and so it has not as much as I would have hoped kind of transcended into our other varieties and the fact that all of our hops are high quality, not just our Cascade. But still, I'm unbelievably grateful for those wins, and that has helped get our name out there.
Yeah.
And then there's also an exchange, which is an online platform like any, except it's just for hops, for the spot market. And so folks find us on there, and we sell on there all over the country. I mean, everywhere. And I think part of that is price point. Part of that is they're choosing to pick a local farm versus a broker on that platform.
Mm-hmm. Well, some of my Illinois friends, you need to head over to BillyGoatHopFarm.com. Check them out.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. You do.
Now, when you're planning for like the upcoming season here, is it based on, or most of it based on like pre-orders, or you just do your general, what you do every year?
We do have of pre-orders from breweries that consistently use us, and that, this amount of Chinook comment, just like you would a contract with anybody else.
Okay.
We adore those people, and they let us sleep at night. Very appreciative of that. And, for example, the Cascade this year was more or less sold before harvest was even over. I wish all of our varieties would like that. That would be great. And at the same time, we have another set of breweries that consistently buy from us. They just don't necessarily upfront contract it. So, they're probably going to get this amount, but they don't make any set amount saved. And then, we still have a lot of spot market purchases. Folks that, for whatever reason, like on the Upland Exchange, I'm not sure what makes somebody in Nebraska decide buy their Columbus from us. We know that by spot market, we've met, they've decided they want to give us a go.
You mentioned like the varieties that you have, and those are the public varieties, the more classic IPA, old school hops. How does that work with some of these newer boutique ones? Is there like a time frame where something becomes into public domain and you could grow it?
Yes and no.
All right.
Technically, there is a limit on how long they got it trademarked, or whatever the exact correct word is.
Okay.
And then it is public, but at the same time, how are you going to get those rhizomes to grow it? They're not just going to all of a sudden, put them online for sale. So it's a little, catch-22. Like,
all right.
you can, but you also can't get them. So, having said that, there are seems to be some more energy put in through like Oregon State University and different universities out there that are putting together some new public varieties that folks are enjoying. It's an interesting scene, just like the proprietary hops. You see them on a beer can, Mosaic, Citra, Amarillo, whatever. That brewery is doing the marketing and branding for that hop themselves.
Yeah.
Certainly the brokers and the big corporations that own those varieties, they're doing their own marketing and sales. But then in a way, because the consumer now knows, Citra. And historically, I've liked beers with Citra in them. And don't get me wrong, they're all amazing hops.
Yeah.
But then you get this sort of thing where, as a beer drinker, you're looking out for them, and you're purchasing based on that, even though you could have just a quality beer that's made with Crystal, Comet, and Chinook, but nobody's marketing or branding them in the same way.
Yeah. I mean, I remember, what was it, 10 years or so ago, when Citra became, like, they just blew up. Like, I remember this one beer was called Citra Ass Down. Like, even, the main word on the can was Citra. It's like, all right, they're marketing that well.
Oh, that's hilarious. I've never heard of that one.
Yeah, I forget where they were from, but it was Citra Ass Down was the name of the beer.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
I was reading last week, it was on craft beer and brewing. There's some hop farms and there's merchants, like, they're being inundated with surplus hops. Is that something that trickles down to like smaller craft farms like you, or is that more the big commercial farms?
Sure. There certainly is a surplus of hops right now. I've even heard numbers as high as 40 million pounds, which seems mind-boggling. Yes and no, it affects us. When the big guys have excess hops to sell, they can sell it at prices we can't even consider selling at. And so then, if you're a brewer, you're also a small business, and you also have to make your ends meet. And so there are also, the breweries are hurting right now as well. And so it's easier or cheaper in some ways for them to buy the surplus from these brokers. Or, there's also a lot of breweries out there that have thousands of pounds of hops to sell because they over-contracted 4 years ago when they thought the sky was the limit. And so there's hops everywhere to choose from as a brewer. And it does affect us. I think if there was a more even supply and demand, then we would get a little more traction. With just so much on the market, it's hard to sift through what to get as a brewer.
Like when we first started emailing like a month or so ago, like I mentioned hop water, and like here in Illinois, there's a lot of breweries that are coming out with like their version of a hop water. Is that something that like you see near you in Colorado? Are a lot of breweries getting into this? And I'm assuming that has to help you out.
Sure. There are, you definitely see a lot more different beverages like that, from the hop water, hop teas, non-alcoholic drinks as well. And there is room for that in the market, and they're selling. So we do see these different kind of beverages. And I think I probably, if I'm being honest with myself, could do a better job of trying to market to those either companies that are specifically doing that, or the breweries that are adding it on, and kind of push us a little more in that direction. Because we haven't seen a ton yet. Because they're cool. I think they're great. I've enjoyed the ones that I've had, and it's nice when it's 3 p.m. and you're like, oh, I want a beer, but maybe you shouldn't have one yet. To have a refreshing, bubbly hop water,
because I think I have my formula now dialed in, where like I first bought some extract from one of the big farms before I knew you, and that was okay, but it was pricey. So I decided, well, I'm going to try making my own. And the first batch I did was with lemon drop hops, and that was absolutely phenomenal. But dummy me puts it in like a Soda Stream bottle, which then, like, if you've ever seen the like YouTube videos of people putting a Mentos in a 2-liter bottle, that's what this was. It was just an explosion, hop water all over the kitchen. It was a mess, but the little bit that didn't explode out of the bottle was delicious. So when I bought yours, I tried like steeping them in vodka to get like some of the essence out of there, and that was okay. But now what I've done, I have like a keg with little CO2 cartridges in. It's like a growler. So I use about a half ounce of hops with a little citric acid and some gypsum, and it comes out really good. So I think I got it dialed in now where I can make it at home, and I'll be purchasing more hops from you down the line.
Perfect. That sounds awesome. I should try that myself. I haven't tried making it.
I've seen
tea at night sometimes, but not like that. That sounds wonderful.
Yeah, and I've like read other things and I'm like, oh, this looks way too complicated, where people take whole cone hops and you have to like put them in water in like a crock pot and like turn the lid upside down so like the condensation falls back into this, freeze it, and then the top layer is the oils, which then you could put in like your little bottles like this. This is what I use like the vodka with, but then you could just take the oils and put them in there and then just use like a drop or two in your like club soda or whatever. But no, I mean, yeah, some of like the one that I made with that lemon drop hops, that to me was better than like some of the commercial ones here. I'm like, this is really good. I would drink this every day.
Yeah. Yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, just making a tincture even. Like that. But
yeah,
cool.
but yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much refrigerator space I have for digging out crock pots and everything. But
yeah. That sounds a little complicated.
yeah. Later this year in September, you're going to host the third Southwest Fresh Fest. This looks awesome. You've got breweries that are all having their fresh hop beers. What else can people expect? Because from like what I read on the website, it looks great.
It's super fun. I really enjoy it. So yeah, last year we had 13 different breweries and 15 different fresh hop beers. So everything there is a fresh hop beer. And just in case anybody is a little unclear, a fresh hop beer is where the cones come straight off the vine and into a brew within 24 hours. And so it's a celebration of harvest, and you can only make it that time of year. And it's usually best immediately versus some that are better aged. And so it's our celebration of harvest and just awareness of agriculture and the part that ag plays in everything. And it's super fun. We get a couple different live bands come and play. We have local food trucks that all have some local beef grinders and local roasted corn and peppers. And It's really fun. Kids run around in the dirt. I do a farm tour halfway through if anybody wants to come and talk about how the hops are grown and show them the different equipment. And it's super fun.
All right, cool. And the website for that is southwestfreshfest.com. So check that out. I work for an airline and we fly into Montrose. So this could work. My wife and I are really into hiking, and you're not that far from Black Canyon National Park. Is that like cool for hiking? And like, how far away are you from Black Canyon?
Yeah, Black Canyon is absolutely incredible. It's from the farm, it's 40 minutes.
Oh, okay.
So it's quite close for national park. It's so unassuming. When you're driving up to it, you just look like you're in a field of sage, and you're like, what the heck is possibly out here? And you get there, and it is just, it's astounding. There is there's a main kind of road with lots of viewpoint stops and short hikes along the top. That's real easy to just admire and view and see. But then if you want to get after it, it's super cool. You can get down to the bottom of the canyon, and they have different trails that go. They're all quite steep. They'll have chain links up to kind of hold onto as you go down through sections, and absolutely gorgeous. The Black Canyon is definitely, I think kind of overlooked as far as national parks go, but it should not be.
Oh, and also like the one place that's on our bucket list is Arches. And how far of a drive is that from you? Because it didn't look on Google, it didn't look horribly far, but how far of a drive would you say Arches is?
Arches is probably 2.5 hours.
Right.
As the crow flies, it's right over the Uncompahgre Plateau. It's right there, but you either have to go north to Grand Junction to 70 and back down, or you can head south through the San Juan Mountains and kind of go near Telluride and a little more scenic view up there. But it's not far at all. It is a really neat location here because you have the mountains that are, they're legit mountains. We from our farm, we look at a 14er peak, Mount Sneffels, that's right there. And there's, Crested Butte and Telluride and Durango all quite close. But then you also have, Fruta up by Grand Junction is world-class mountain biking. You got Moab, all the national parks over there with climbing and boating. And so there really is a lot right around here if folks came out and visited to see and do. It's impressive.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely have to make a run there this year. Hopefully my back's feeling better where I could actually hike at the end of this year. But yeah, I'd love to come visit Montrose because it sounds really cool. From just the pictures on your website, I'm like, oh, wow, this looks really cool. So yeah, I'm Googling, all right, how far is it away? I'm like, Oh, wait, there's a lot to do here.
Yeah.
Well, Audrey, I can't thank you enough for coming on. This was a lot of fun learning about hops and a hop farm. You got to check them out, even for like home brewers. You said there's not a big selection of homebrew stuff, but trust me, if I could find it, you could find it. Go to billygoathopfarm.com. Also, check out the Southwest Fresh Fest. It's southwestfreshfest.com. That happens every year in September. Audrey, thanks again. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Dave. It's been a lot of fun, and excited to hear how the rest of your brewing endeavors go.
All right, I wanted to have some hoppy beers after talking to Audrey over at Billy Goat Hop Farm. First up is award-winning Two-Hearted IPA from Bell's. This uses the classic old-school hop Centennial. It's a 100% Centennial beer, 7% alcohol. It's such a great beer. It's won countless awards as some of the best beer in America. I've talked about it on the show before, but it's a great beer, so I'm going to talk about it again. So let's crack open the Two-Hearted IPA from Bell's. Two-Hearted is a beautiful, nice golden color, good foam here. Oh, that just smells so good. It's just your classic, old school West Coast IPA. Smells phenomenal. And that's just so good. And words can't describe how good this is. You get wonderful mouthfeel out of this. There's good carbonation. You get everything from bitterness to the nice flavors of the hops, the sweetness of the malt. Everything here is in perfect balance. There's a reason why this wins awards, because it's that good, and you don't need to change anything about this. I know they have different variants now. There's like a lighter session one. I think they have an imperial one as well, but just your classic Two-Hearted IPA from Bell's is just so good. There's nothing I would change about that. It's just perfect. So if you like hoppy beers, maybe you haven't had Two-Hearted in a while, you're finding new hazy ones or what have you, go back to Bell's Two-Hearted IPA. You will not be disappointed. You need to put this one in the cart. The hoppy beer I'm going to have from Illinois this week is, I'm going to read this off. The title is Bone Bone, Bone Bone Bone, Bone, Bone Bone Bone. Now this is in collaboration with two great breweries, Alarmist and Hidden Hand. This is a hazy double IPA with Citra, Idaho 7, Centennial, and Simcoe hops, 7.6% alcohol. I love everything that Hidden Hand and Alarmist does, so I'm looking forward to this bone beer. Very pale in color, a lot of foam here, but big aromas I'm getting out of this with all of these hops. It's like a big fruity aroma. I get almost like a peach apricot type thing going on here, but it smells really good. Wow. Yeah, that's really good. A lot of flavors going on here. I get that peachy thing going, some apricot. I'm getting like a tropical vibe to this. This does have a lot of flavors, but it's really good. They marry well together. Yeah, it's a good mouthfeel. It finishes good. This is a winner. And I don't know if I could say the name of this beer again, but it's Bone Bone, Bone Bone Bone, Bone, Bone Bone Bone. It's a hazy IPA from Hidden Hand and Alarmist. If you see this one, you definitely have to put it in the cart. If you like hoppy, hazy IPAs, I think you're going to love this one. So check out Bone from Alarmist and Hidden Hand. All right, that's going to wrap things up for this week's edition of Beer in Front. I thank you very much for listening. I want to thank once again Audrey Gelhausen, the co-owner of Billy Goat Hop Farm. It was a lot of fun chatting with her. I'll talk to you guys next week. Have a great week, and remember, sometimes the beer in front of you is the best one yet.